I've got more on the Fed and how it all fits into the picture. And I also want to point out the indictment of some Venezuelan bigwigs. So stick with me here, folks. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I'm going to start out with this right here because I've got lots of things to share with you, so hang in there. The first one is the stimulus check calculator. Have you been wondering, they're talking about $1,200 and then they also talk between $600 and $1,200. Do you wonder how much you might be getting? Well, I don't know how accurate this is, but here's a little tool that you can use. Fill the things out, tell what your filing status was, and if you didn't file in 2019, I believe it's based on your 2018 filing at this point, and so just put that in and see what you come up with. Try it out, most of them I think are probably going to come out $1,200, but if you have over 75,000, I believe, it may come up reduced from that. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. As always, all of my links will be down below. So you just have to click something to open up the description and the links will be there so you can follow them. This one right here, I wanted to give you hope because, yes, Barr says Durham's Russia investigation persists during this entire outbreak and the quarantine and everything. So the investigation's still going on. And as of now, from what I'm hearing, we're looking at June or July for the result of that, which is not going to be a report, folks. It's going to be indictments. And there will be some. And speaking of Barr, I wanted to show you this because this is kind of an important event. I'm not sure too many people understand what this is all about. And, this happened back on the 26th. They did this press conference that announced an indictment, a series of indictments on some Venezuelan upper-level government people, including Maduro. And you're probably thinking, what? What's going on? Well, here's the actual indictment. And so it was lots of them, 14 current and former Venezuelan officials. And here's what they were charged with: narco-terrorism, corruption, drug trafficking, and other criminal charges. And you're probably sitting there scratching your head going, why would we indict people from other countries, like their officials? Is that our job to be policing their officials? Well, yes, it is, because the problem was this stuff was coming into the United States. As you can see here, to use cocaine as a weapon to flood the United States. This is what was going on, and the money laundering and everything that went along with it, this highly impacts our own country. And that's why it was very important for our own Department of Justice to step up and to indict these people. Will they ever show up for prosecution? The likelihood is small on that. I don't know how much ability our Department of Justice has to bring them in, to extradite them. But I just know that this is significant because of what this represents. And the reason that I'm pointing this out is because we know from the start, from the executive orders that President Trump signed when he first got into office, that he's targeting these transnational criminal organizations. In other words, a global mafia. And because of that, this is significant. It opens the doors to prosecution of similar people who have been involved in trafficking of various kinds, not just drug trafficking, but also human trafficking and weapons trafficking. So I assume that this is to let us know that these kinds of things are going on. There are some big time intensive investigations happening right now that will bring all of these criminals to justice. We just need to remember that they are going on, and just because we don't see them doesn't mean they're not happening. And like I said, this I think is huge just because it shows that they're working on people who have targeted the United States. And in this case, Maduro very deliberately deployed cocaine as a weapon against the United States. That's what they were using for. and he was part of it over the last decade. Corrupt Venezuelan government officials have systematically looted Venezuela of billions of dollars. Far too often, these corrupt officials and their co-conspirators have used South Florida banks and real estate to conceal and perpetuate their illegal activity. As the recent charges show, Venezuelan corruption and money laundering in South Florida extends to even the highest levels of Venezuela's judicial system. I think it was like their Supreme Court justice or something like that. In the last couple of years, the U.S. Attorney's Office in South Florida and its federal law enforcement partners have united to bring dozens of criminal charges against high-level regime officials and co-conspirators, resulting in seizures of approximately $450 million. Now remember, when they indict these people, then that gives them the ability, the government, the ability to seize their assets, because that's in another one of President Trump's executive orders. So yes, they can do that, and that is part of what's happening. So interesting, all of this money laundering that they were doing, South Florida banks, that can be seized. And so I really do think that this is a big deal, bigger deal than I think, it's not getting out there in the media very much. I mean, I've seen little articles here and there. I don't know that people are really sensing what this tells us. This indicates that, yes, all of these programs, these investigations going into all the trafficking, all the different kinds of trafficking going on in the United States that touches us, they are being investigated. There are websites being seized. There are things like this going on. It's happening, folks, that these big criminal organizations are starting to be held accountable. So again, don't know if they will actually, be brought here for trial, but at least the indictment has been made so that it draws the line. It says we know what they did, and the money has already been seized. So that's good too. All right, now I had told you in the last video, I talked a little bit about the Fed. I mentioned it. Well, I gotta tell you, folks, finance and financial things, not my forte, but I'm going to give you some tools that if that's something that you're interested in, or if you want to understand more, I'm going to show you some things that can help you understand better. Now, this article right here was referred to, I believe, by the 17th letter of the alphabet indirectly. It's the Fed's cure risks being worse than the disease. Well, here's the situation. You've got this restructuring of how things work with the Fed and the Treasury. And it's working for our benefit, because right now, speaking of the transnational criminal organizations, they have it set up so that they can manipulate the Fed and basically control our own economy, whether it goes up or it goes down. And in this case, it's not a good thing because their goal is to take us down. So how do you get past that? Well, you set it up so these criminal organizations cannot take down our economy without taking themselves down, because this whole thing is set up as kind of a way to keep them, to prevent them, to block them from being able to crash our economy. I know that sounds really strange, and I'm not going to explain it very well because I don't understand things as well, but I've got a link here I'll show you. But before I do that, I want to show you this line. This is an opinion piece, by the way. And he says, this scheme essentially merges the Fed and the Treasury into one organization. So meet your new Fed chairman, Donald J. Trump. This right here is a great video that was done, and it shows how it all fits together. He goes through this article right here, and he explains it in a way that I can't, because this guy knows finances. He deals with a lot of upper level finances and millions of dollar type things. So he explains it better. He goes through and he can tell you what the significance is of this transition. It's not a takeover of the Fed, really. What it is a restructuring of it. So the global investors that want to hold control over the United States are too invested in what's going on. So if they hurt us, they'll hurt themselves equally. So that's kind of the summary of it. But it's a really good video. It's about an hour long, and I recommend it. The link will be down below so you can take it. And so here's another link that I'll put, and this is just that same article. Here's a Facebook post that was put in. This is interesting. I had dinner with Federal Reserve officials last night. They advised all Federal Reserve employees except police officers and essential employees have been ordered on paid leave for the next 4 weeks. The Federal Reserve is essentially shut down. Thought that was kind of interesting. And then this right here was from the research boards. And he says Mnuchin just bankrupted the Fed, and it started. The market liquidity is now controlled by Steve Mnuchin and the Treasury Department. That also means we own all central bank requests for credit for all 186 foreign nations. Folks, a power transfer just went down. The world just went from asking the Rothschilds for credit swaps to asking Steve Mnuchin and the U.S. Treasury for credit swaps. Boom. So again, I am not really great at finances. I'm going to leave these links so that you can check them out. Here are some more that I'll leave down there too, that you can see about press releases and the monetary policy and things. So if you want to find out, because that article does say he's nationalizing the Fed, but when you watch that video here, it will show you that it's not necessarily that, but he explains it very well. This will help. Some of these links too are interesting and kind of touch on the topic. So there you go. I'm going to leave those links for you. Again, I apologize that I'm not financially minded, and I would have to do an awful lot of study on the topic, and it's not a topic that I absorb well. So I'll stick to all the government documents. That's kind of my forte. Anyway, let's go on. I want to just leave this. There was, during the Golden Globes in 2019, says January 6, 2019. I don't remember when it was, but they had this skit. And let me go here. They had this skit where they said, instead of getting you something, we're going to give you all flu shots. So there's some speculation that the flu shot has backfired. So just putting that out there. I'll leave you the link. You can watch it for yourself. Then I wanted to show you this because this post was a response to another tweet he'd made. I can't find the original tweet now. But he said Invoke P means Defense Production Act. And there was a lot of speculation on the research board as to what he meant by Invoke P when he used that in his original tweet. I'm sorry I can't find the original one. I don't know. I looked for it. It's just like it's disappeared, or I don't know, maybe he deleted it. He does that sometimes, but there was some speculation going on, and the researchers were bouncing the question back and forth. What exactly did he mean? And so all of a sudden, just out of the blue, he posted this, and it's like, yeah, I think he was lurking on the boards, and he kept track of what the discussion was, so he answered us. I think. I don't know. I also want to include this. This is a list of military elite purged and fired under Obama. Now, this is from 2014, but it's a very interesting list, and this should be sobering to us. This is what was going on. So when President Trump talks about our military being depleted, he's not just talking about the ordinances and the equipment and everything. He's talking about this too. He's talking about all of these generals that were pushed out, kind of forced into early retirement and everything. It was really sad. I remember this happening. It was in 2013, 2012. Yeah. And pretty much he was getting rid of everybody who disagreed with him and his policies. So I'll leave the list in case you're interested in seeing that. I just came across it and I thought it might be something you'd like to see. All right, then we're going to this one, which is a Tom Hanks sighting. Now, supposedly, he and his wife have been released. Well, but here he is getting off the plane, and look, there's a couple of Fed-looking guys there waiting for him. Looks like he's being escorted. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like to me. So, and then this person went through and said they got into a black SUV, and he did some research and said they don't own or operate that car. It's operated by the Navy. So I thought that might be something you'd like to see. And then Rudy Giuliani's been getting on a lot of heat. He got suspended for a little bit. He got a timeout, I guess you want to call it, and for posting this tweet right here. But this is the thing. They said it was because it was false information being spread. And it's like, no, that's really not false information. The doctor in France who did this, who was a fairly high-level doctor, I mean, he's pretty well known in France, he had 100% effective rate, but granted his entire study was very small. I think it was like 30 people or something like that. But he did have 100% effective rate, and many of them that are doing this are now finding that's what's happening, that it's very successful using not just the hydroxychloroquine, but also the azithromycin too in combination, because one handles one type of the problem with the lungs and the other one handles the other part. So it really is a conjunction of the two. They found that the hydroxychloroquine in one study, I remember seeing the chart, and it said that was effective, but the combination of the two was much more effective. So anyway, it seems to be working, but have you noticed that you're not hearing anything about it in the New York media or even in any of the media? If they have this going on, which they do, there is a study happening right now. They are using it on people in New York. And I've heard that there were about almost 700 people that have responded very positively to it at this point. And again, folks, if I get this, I want that medicine. You know, I really do. It's very sad that some of these governors are saying they can't prescribe it. You know, if a doctor wants to prescribe this for somebody, why shouldn't they be able to? I mean, they are a doctor, they have knowledge. I think they know more about how medicines work than these governors. And I think they should be allowed. So I don't understand why people are threatening doctors who prescribe it, why they're saying the doctors can't prescribe it. It's crazy. But anyway, so Rudy posted that. Now, today he posted this, and he says, here it is. Hydroxy treatment appears to be working in an exclusive interview, and he has an interview here with Dr. Zelenko, shares with us a preliminary study outlining that out of his 699 patients treated, he has had 0 deaths and 0 intubations. And this, to me, is what makes it very sad that we are seeing people die because they're not getting these treatments. Why not? Let's get this in there. Again, President Trump put in this right to try. I think if you're in the hospital and you are dying of this illness, you should have the right to try this. Why not? Doesn't that fit under the same thing? Sometimes when I look at what President Trump has done over the last 2 or 3 years, I see how it almost was a preparation for what's happening now. I mean, there are so many things that were put in place that at the time didn't seem to have, any real great purpose. But now you're looking at it going, So I would say that if someone wanted to, they could challenge, these governors that are saying you can't prescribe that, because right to try should allow these patients who are on the verge of dying, they should be allowed to try this medicine, even though it's not been specified for that. And the whole thing is that even though it wasn't specified for this particular illness, it has been used in other illnesses. So we do know the side effects. We do know how they work. And that's what makes this a little different than if you have a new drug that's never been tested. Like when they come out with the vaccine, they can't just start giving this vaccine to a bunch of people. There's going to have to be some tests ahead of time to make sure that it's safe to give to people first before they start injecting people. So, I don't know. I really think this is probably going to be the solution. But again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't say for 100%. But yeah, this guy, guess what? Now the DOJ admits they lost the files. Huh. Gee, how convenient. Wow. So yeah, this came out on March 20th. And, contrary to what the mainstream media wants you to believe, there is more going on in the world right now than the coronavirus. That's a big story to be sure, but the media is largely using it to mask plenty of other important bits of news. Yes, folks, keep your eyes peeled because there's lots of little things happening, things they don't want you to know. One of those involves deep corruption with the FBI, no surprise there, and General Michael Flynn. There were documents there. There's a lot that they should have, but they don't. Now they're saying they don't have them. In fact, it says here, Mueller wrote a letter to Flynn's defense team claiming that he didn't think Flynn did anything wrong. And that was in 2017. And despite that, Flynn's lawyers pressured him into a guilty plea. See, I'm telling you, folks, his lawyers were not working for him. They really weren't. So they were part of the setup, I'm sure. I don't know how he got connected with them, but I'm so glad he's with Sidney Powell now. So anyway, I'll leave this link down below. You can read the article if you want to, but I hope things are coming around to the point where this man is soon exonerated. I do not want a pardon for him because a pardon indicates that you were guilty. I want total exoneration. I want the case to be just turned around, and actually the prosecutors need to be prosecuted for what they did to him. And so I hope that he can sue them, he can get all of his money back, he deserves it. This man is a genuine U.S. hero. And I'm pretty sure that in the end, everything's going to work out for him. But right now, we're all frustrated and we want to see justice done. And that means clearing his record and restoring to him the honor that he deserves. So that's what I've got for you on this one. Again, all of the links will be down below. They'll be in the description. So if you're on a mobile device, you may have to hit like a little triangle or something to pop that open. And if you're on regular laptop or something, click the show more under the video and you'll find it there. So that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.